Hi, friends. Today I'll be talking about the 2015 psychological techno-thriller called Mr. Robot. By day, he's a cybersecurity engineer, but by night, he's a socially anxious hacker who decides to take down the global financial system and erase everyone's debts. Somewhere on the top floor of a skyscraper, a group of people is gathered. They're hidden from the public eye, yet they control the entire world. Sitting in a subway car, Elliot Alderson notices two men watching him. It all started a few hours before this ride when, instead of going to a party with his friend, he went to a late-night cafe and sat down with Ron, the founder of a cafe chain. Elliot began the conversation in a very neutral manner, and the businessman even thought he might be a crazy fan. But Elliot quickly explained his strange behavior. He handed Ron a folder containing all the information about the businessman's dirty websites involving minors. During the conversation, Elliot admits that he somewhat understands the man since he too is different from everyone else. But still, for creating such content, the businessman will have to pay, and the hacker isn't interested in money. Dozens of police cars pull up to the cafe to arrest the entrepreneur. The hacker only plays the hero at night. By day, he's no different from an ordinary person, working as a cybersecurity engineer. Today, he's tasked with finding the hackers who keep attacking a company that his firm is responsible for protecting. Angela, Elliot's friend and colleague, is mad at him for skipping yet another party. He doesn't have the heart to tell her that he actually came, but couldn't bring himself to join. After work, he has to visit his therapist. It's not that he dislikes Krista. In fact, after hacking her and learning everything about her, Elliot developed a fondness for the woman. He just can't focus during their sessions. Right now, he's more interested in Michael, a guy from a dating site who's messing with Krista's head. Despite his extensive experience, Elliot hasn't been able to find any information about him. Krista tries to bring her patient back to reality, but the conversation isn't going well. Elliot's social deviations make him aggressive and irritable, but he knows what to say to make her back off, successfully easing the therapist's suspicions. Ollie, Angela's boyfriend, tries to get on good terms with her friend, but knowing all his flaws, Elliot doesn't want to be friends with the guy. Moreover, the hacker's attention shifts to the employees of E-Corp. Elliot has been keeping an eye on their activities for a while now, referring to the company as Evil Corp, which he's forced to work for. The delegation stops by his desk briefly, but one member, Tyrell Wellick, decides to get to know the programmer better. At the end of the workday, Elliot has to return home, and despite his dislike of people, loneliness is very hard for him. Even his only friend, a pet fish, can't save him during a nervous breakdown. To calm down, he has to take an illegal substance, which he gets from a girl he knows named Shayla. This time, her visit ends up being more interesting than usual, and the two end up in bed together. Elliot gets a notification on his phone about a new check-in from Krista, and he decides to finally find out who Michael really is. As he goes on the hunt, the hacker notices that his friends in black suits are following him, but he's not sure if they're real or just a figment of his imagination. After pulling a scam involving a taxi call, Elliot finds Michael's address and, after trailing him, locates the man. He asks for Michael's phone to make a call and saves his number. Hoping to find out everything, Angela changes his plans. E-Corp's servers are under attack again, and Elliot is urgently needed to stop it. The attack is indeed very serious, and the information has already reached the press. The employees' attempts to fix the situation only make things worse. Rebooting the system spreads the virus even further. Elliot is flown to the corporation's server room, and only there does the genius manage to disable the malicious program and clean the server. But it's not enough for him. He tries to find a trace that would lead him to the hackers. Surprisingly, Elliot manages to do this quite easily. Moreover, he finds a message from the society group addressed to him. Instead of deleting the file, the hacker saves it. On the plane, Gideon, Elliot's boss, confesses to him about his unconventional orientation, not understanding why he's pouring his heart out to him. But what worries the older man more is that E-Corp wants to terminate their services, which would lead to the collapse of the entire business. Elliot promises his boss that he'll find the hackers and restore trust in the corporation. In the subway, a homeless man, whom Elliot has been seeing quite often lately, sits down next to him. The man's jacket sports a Mr. Robot patch, and the hacker immediately realizes that this is the hacker he's been looking for. Elliot follows the stranger, trying to get answers, but he promises to explain everything once they get to Brooklyn. Elliot is a bit wary of the strange man, but he follows him out of curiosity without asking too many questions. The hacker group is based in an abandoned alley, using face-to-face meetings for security. Before introducing Elliot to the plan, Mr. Robot suggests he look around. On his way home, Elliot tries to figure out if this was all real or if he's hallucinating again. His thoughts are interrupted by Angela, who decides to thank him for saving the company. Elliot invites the blonde to his place, completely forgetting that Shayla has been sleeping in his bed since yesterday. But Angela is even glad that her friend has someone now. After kicking Shayla out, Elliot tries to find information about society and Mr. Robot, but not a single chat room in the world has anything about this team. The hacker realizes he could turn Mr. Robot in with the file he has, but something holds him back, and he decides to learn more first. Elliot returns to the hacker's lair and tells the old man that he plans to turn them in. But Mr. Robot just smiles, believing that deep down, Elliot wants to be part of their righteous cause. And that cause is to erase all the world's debts by taking down the banking servers. Elliot is given his first task. He has to modify a file by inserting Colby's computer IP address into the right line. This way, the team can frame someone else for their attack and, taking advantage of the situation, launch the credit revolution. Reflecting on Mr. Robot's words, Elliot notices all the credit ads around him. He also checks Angela's account, discovering that she still has a huge student loan. This helps the hacker make a decision, and he hands the company president a folder with fake addresses. Almost 3 weeks pass, but there's no news about a revolution or anything like it. When Elliot arrives at the base, he doesn't find Mr. Robot or any other F Society members, and he starts to think it was all just a hallucination. To blow off some steam, he decides to deal with Michael, his therapist suitor, by finding out the whole truth about him. Elliot meets with the scammer and convinces him to break up with Krista if he doesn't want serious trouble. Moreover, the hacker takes the man's dog, which he has always been very rough with, and now lonely Elliot has another friend. A conversation between Elliot and Angela is interrupted by a breaking news report about the arrest of Colby, E-Corp's CTO. Elliot realizes that the process has begun, but just as he's feeling especially happy, the men in suits appear again. They take him to a skyscraper, where he's greeted on the top floor by the world's rulers, E-Corp led by Tyrell Wellick. Wellick offers the hacker the position of head of cybersecurity. Feeling lost, Elliot asks for time to think it over. Tyrell dismisses the lawyers and prepares to take the position of corporate director. The businessman thanks Elliot for this and warns him that the company he works for is doomed anyway, and he doesn't want to see a genius like him left without a job. However, Elliot refuses the tempting offer, not wanting to betray his colleagues. Tyrell's men drive Elliot home, handing him a business card in case he changes his mind. At home, Shayla is waiting for him, and Elliot asks her for more drugs, but she remembers her promise not to sell him anything outside the schedule. In the end, she gives in, and Elliot, having taken more than he should, turns to his alter ego. He then hacks into Tyrell's personal accounts, but it's all too easy, making the hacker realize he's been allowed to do it, lured into a trap. To cover his tracks, he has to get rid of all the equipment in his apartment. Distracted, he notices that his new pet isn't house-trained, so he has to explain that the street is for that. At work, he can't focus, wondering when Mr. Robot will contact him again. And Gideon, sensing potential failure, tries to keep Elliot with a salary raise, hoping not to lose his best employee. During the conversation, his boss informs him that the F Society group has appeared online and is now blackmailing the FBI with people's personal data, demanding Colby's release, calling him their leader. On his way home, the hacker sees he's being watched, and his mind becomes even more conflicted. He doesn't understand what Mr. Robot has dragged him into. Suddenly, he finds a girl from society in his apartment, acting strangely and inviting him to a meeting. Sitting in the subway, Elliot begins to have doubts and thinks it would be better to tell Gideon everything. And seeing that Tyrell's men are following him, he worries even more. They'll probably eliminate him for such connections. The society members applaud the programmer, believing that everything happened thanks to him, and Mr. Robot informs his friend of the next plan. They're going to blow up the gas plant next to E-Corp's servers. This task also falls on Elliot. He has to hack the system and increase the pressure. The guy doubts the righteousness of this act, as innocent people and plant workers might die, but Mr. Robot considers it a necessary sacrifice. Elliot refuses to participate, and the man tries to play on his emotions, reminding him of his father's difficult fate. But that doesn't work either. Elliot walks away, wondering whom he can turn the group over to. Returning, he stops by Shayla's for the dog, but instead of her, he finds her dealer, Fernando Vera, in the apartment. Deciding to wait for her to come out of the shower, Elliot has to listen to the dealer's nonsense, who, it turns out, is jealous of the quirky guy. When the dealer leaves, taking Elliot's stash with him, the hacker breaks the lock on the bathroom door and finds Shayla unconscious and crying. He wants to help his friend, but she refuses, believing there's no better business for her than this. After considering everything, Elliot realizes that without Vera, he won't have access to drugs, but he wants to help Shayla more. At the next session with Krista, he talks a lot about choices, while the cops are already loading the entire dealer's team into vans. Angela's boyfriend tries to load a disc sold to him by a musician on the street, but his computer just freezes. He doesn't even notice that his webcam is now streaming to the same musician. Elliot finds Mr. Robot and suggests destroying the servers without touching the gas plant. The old man isn't too happy about this initiative, especially after the hacker ditched them. So he agrees to listen to the plan only after Elliot tells him about his father. Seizing the moment when the young man lets his guard down, Mr. Robot pushes him off the bridge. Tyrell prepares to take office, rehearsing his speech, but higher management cancels the meeting, announcing that another candidate has appeared for the position. Frustrated, Tyrell heads to a homeless shelter, where he once again pays one of them to let him use him as a punching bag. Elliot wakes up in the hospital and sees Shayla and Krista beside him. Left alone with the therapist, he confesses that he's been taking pills lately, and the woman insists that he agree to treatment in a clinic. But of course, for Elliot, it's easier to hack the system than to give up illegal substances, and he takes some as soon as he's discharged. Shayla is angry with her friend for getting Vera arrested, but he's more worried about another visit from Darlene, who has broken into his apartment again. This time, he doesn't fall for her pleas and throws her out. Ollie calls his lover, talking about the photos being used to blackmail him so he won't relax. The hackers remind him of their demands with phone calls. Gideon invites the employees to dinner, but Elliot looks for an excuse to bail, avoiding unnecessary questions. He's in a hurry to his spot, where Mr. Robot is already waiting for him. The man persuades the hacker to talk, and they head to a nearby bar. Mr. Robot apologizes for his actions and says that without Elliot, the society will cease to exist. This news pleases the hacker. He imagines starting a new life and never getting into such a mess again. For this, he even returns to work and tells Gideon that he'll come to the dinner after all, and not alone. Tyrell heads to the club, ignoring his pregnant wife's displeasure. Elliot invites Shayla to dinner with Gideon as his date. The dealer isn't surprised, believing that the guy doesn't know her at all. But, impressed by his attitude, she even shows him her secret hobby: fabric patchwork paintings. Shayla confesses that she would like a relationship but is very afraid of disappointment. Tyrell arrives at the club and meets Anwar, whom the businessman came to this rough neighborhood for. Unexpectedly for the guy, Tyrell also confesses his feelings to him. The employees gather at Gideon's apartment, where they are greeted by Harry, the boss's boyfriend. During the barbecue, Gideon apologizes to Elliot for his suspicions, but the hacker is more worried that his boss is trying to stir up the hornet's nest of E-Corp and society. The dinner goes great, and Elliot seizes the moment to talk to Angela alone. The idyll is ruined by a report that Colby has been charged with another crime related to a toxic waste spill 20 years ago. Elliot realizes this is the work of society, as he himself told Mr. Robot about his father's illness. After the incident, Tyrell gets what he wants from Anwar, and while the guy is taking a shower, the businessman installs a tracking app on his phone. Ollie decides to come clean with Angela, showing her the photos of his mistress and other files from the blackmailers. The girl realizes they have to meet the demands and infect the network of the company they work for. Otherwise, both she and her father are doomed. Meanwhile, Terrell returns home, where his wife is waiting, eager for some fun despite her condition. This is where the third episode ends. Friends, the continuation is ready. Who wants to watch the recap? Wants to watch the recap? Wants to watch the